What if you just had like a normal sleep schedule?
I try, man. I'm trying.
Do you?
I'm aiming.
Do you? What is holding
try.
you back from having a normal sleep schedule?
Having 2 different types of insomnia.
Okay, now I'm the asshole.
Yes. Yes. No, I have the word. I have the 2 transitional ones. I can't fall asleep and I can't wake up.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah. It's just terrible.
You just get over it. Just go to bed. She straight spit.
Kind of spitting facts though. No, bit's not making it into the cold open, but
we can just talk to each other for fun without needing it to be for the cold
everything
open.
Is for content now. This is the new grind. You have to get used to it. We'll never have real conversations again.
Yeah, this is
all content. Everything is a facade.
We are actually not friends in real life.
Yeah, we actually hate each other. We're like Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Vin Diesel, like how they like won't like they hate each other and like half their scenes on set are like split screen. Like, that's
really?
Us. Yeah. Like in the Fast and Furious movies, they'll have these weirdly like posed like stances with each other, and it's like because they didn't film it at the same time because they wouldn't look at each other because they hated each other so much.
That's 100% what's happening right now.
I mean, insider secret that literally did happen in our first episode.
What?
You remember the first episode, Don't Worry Darling, you were split screened in for a couple lines. Oh, yeah. She wouldn't film the intro with me. I had to fake it. The intro you guys saw in the first ever episode, she was not actually there for. I literally split screened her
Should we tell them? When do we reveal why that happened?
In the future, guys.
I think we should reveal it right now. Caleb and I recorded the first episode of the podcast, the Don't Worry Darling episode. We recorded the whole thing under a different name.
Yeah.
And then when we had finished recording, the recording was 100% done. I looked to make a couple of our social medias and discovered that the name that I had picked out for the podcast was already taken. And we had looked it up like 4 or 5 times.
So many times. Like on a weekly basis. It was literally every week, multiple people in the room, not even just us, would collectively look it up.
I don't know how we missed it.
Yeah, and then it was like after we found it once, it was easy to find everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Like I don't.
How? Anyways, shout out to you have an excellent title, and everyone should go follow them.
No, they shouldn't.
They should, because we support other creators here.
I don't.
I do.
I actually stand not watching anybody and just listening to my voice for eternity.
I would kill myself.
So would I. Wait, fuck, that's what I already have to do on a daily basis.
No, so that's what happened with that. And so we had recorded it, and then we went back over to my apartment to hang out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'll just come back over tomorrow and we'll re-record the intro. And Caleb was like, I'm going to go record it right now. And I was like, okay, do you want me to come with you? And he was like, no, I'll just do it. So it's not that I refuse to be in it.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I ran on foot back over here, sat down, turned the camera, and talked to nobody for 2 minutes.
And he superimposed. It looks really good.
Yeah, you can't even notice it. I was actually impressed.
Tell. Yeah, even I who knew I wasn't there.
Yeah, I remember I sent you a clip like the day after of me saying Cynical Cinephiles for the first time with you in frame when you were never.
I was never there. That is so funny. I don't know. Shout out to nah. There's also another Cynical Cinephiles podcast, but they stopped posting 4 years ago. Didn't count. So
yeah.
You know.
Also, just to spite, I'm gonna blur their name out if this does make it in the episode. I refuse to give them credit. I am a salty little bitch.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. I don't give people credit. I am fervently against it.
What if we get like accused of like plagiarism? Like
then I will apologize and suck it up.
I wholeheartedly believe in giving credit where credit is due.
I don't think credit is due ever.
So when Caleb and I split and form our own podcast, or like separately, and then he brings in a different co-host to just continue this podcast, he's gonna claim that the original podcast was his idea and not mine.
It's the same without her, right? I'll just superimpose. I'll start recording these by myself. Use old footage of you.
I say the same 4 sentences anyway.
Yeah.
All you need.
I mean, you could do the same for me though. Just have me be like peak.
All you need to make a podcast without me is my laugh. I hate all men.
Peak.
That's incredible. And the point I'm trying to make is, and that's it. You got a whole podcast.
I mean, honestly, I'll just take your laugh. I'll just make a bunch of jokes and make it seem like I'm funny.
Yeah, and then it's just, I had nothing to it.
Should start doing that in episodes. Like when I make jokes and you don't laugh at them, I should take your laugh from other parts and with the camera's not on you. So I'll make it sound like you're actually laughing at me.
Perfect.
Yeah. My jokes will always
If I'm known for anything, it's not having opinions. And so I feel like this could actually work. I'm just known for being really quiet, never saying what I think.
You haven't said any words at all today, actually.
Today, as a whole.
Until like 10 seconds ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What are we watching today?
I think we're doing an intro too. I don't even know. We're gonna splice this shit up like Frankenstein style. I swear to God, it's gonna be the weirdest fucking shit.
I think you need to keep it though. I think it's funny. I think we should have a really long cold open because it kind of explains where we're at today.
That's true. The whole episode is the cold open.
I get really mixed reviews on our tangents. Some people are like, it's incredible, you need more of them.
Yeah.
And then David is like, I wish you talked about the actual movie more.
No one wants to hear about the movie.
This is really just our therapy sessions where we get to talk to each other.
Yeah, can I talk about my trauma now?
We don't talk to each other unless we're recording.
It's just the necessity to have human interaction in the modern era in 2022.
True.
You cannot interact unless it's being recorded and viewed by others to see and watch as though they're a third viewer involved. Because then people feel like they're talking to us, and as we feel like we're talking to each other, they feel like they're involved and none of it's real.
I think that leads really well into what we're talking about today.
All right. The intro might have rolled there, or maybe somewhere else. I have no idea. We'll find out later. But what's the movie we're reviewing today? Caitlin, the person who picked. Oh wait, you said it was The Wonder, right? That was the right. Sorry, I forgot when you had introduced that last. It's The Wonder, guys. So see how it says The Wonder right there? I'm gonna superimpose The Wonder for this entire bit until right now because that's what it says. So.
Let me explain. Okay, I was really excited to watch The Wonder, as we all should be. And last night, Caleb, I'm not telling you when we recorded this, but essentially the night before we recorded the podcast, he texted me and he's like, "Hey, bestie." Are you sure? And like my favorite part about this is that he knew the answer to his question, but he wanted it to make it seem like he wasn't blaming me for anything. So he was like, "Hey, are you sure that we're gonna be able to watch The Wonder? I know you said it comes out on, was it the 4th or the 6th? The 4th, right?
The 4th, yeah."
He's like, "I know you said it came out on the 4th, but from everything I'm seeing, that's the UK release date." And I freaked the fuck out. And so I started Googling it. And then I saw a poster that says The Wonder coming, what month are we in? November 16th. On the poster that we put in our podcast. And so I went back and rewatched the end of the podcast because I was like, how hilarious would it be if we at the end posted the literal movie poster that says November 16th. We're not watching The Wonder today.
Before we move on to what we are watching, I have a confession to make.
What?
The poster in the episode was edited.
What? Was it?
I knew it 2 days early, actually, because that was the poster I saw. But then I kept forgetting to text you. And then finally, last night, I was like, shit, I needed to text her about that. But in the episode, I actually went into Photoshop and edited out the date so that people wouldn't see. It's all a lie. It was all...
I quit. Oh my god.
Hey, it's just it's therapy. We're supposed to be honest here, right?
Then last night when I'm having a mental breakdown about this, because Caleb has like a notes list of all the movies he wants us to watch.
Oh yeah.
I don't do it. I fly by the seat of my pants. We're picking the movie the fucking day of, right? Like the day we're recording the previous podcast. That's when I'm picking what we're watching. In between takes, I'm like Googling movies. I'm like, what movies does Caitlin like? It's a problem. And so I was like, I have no fucking idea what we're going to watch. Because like, my other option was we were going to watch like fucking John Carter of Mars. You know what I mean? Which we are going to watch, by the way. Cause
it's on the list.
It's on my mental backlog list of like, that might be cool to do someday. But then David was like, you guys should do It's my favorite movie of all time. And I was like, I have no other opinions. So sounds great. So I texted Caleb back and I was like, hey, we're doing Shutter Island instead. Yeah. And he was like, random, but okay.
I was very thrown off. I'm like, why the fuck is Caitlin recommending a Scorsese movie? I was like, shit. Thought I was supposed to be the like slightly pretentious one between us. No,
are you saying Shutter Island's pretentious? Because I didn't think so.
No, I'm saying Martin Scorsese just in general. I like pretentious though, for the record. I don't use it as an insult. I use it more as a compliment personally. Most people use it as an insult.
I use it as a form of self-awareness.
I mean, that's also fair.
I'm like, I am pretentious, but I'm pretentious about certain things.
That's fair. I think people the people like really try to be like, oh, pretentious is the worst thing ever. It's because it's like you think something's way more important than it actually is. And I'm like, nah, that means you got more meaning in it. There's very few times that I've actually felt something as like pretentious. Yeah. I can't even think of the one example that I've seen that was like that. So
I feel like I'm pretty pretentious about specifically Shakespeare. Like, that's, like, my one claim to... I mean, I guess I did get a degree in biology, and I'll tell literally anyone who asks that I got a degree in biology. But, like, mostly Shakespeare. Shakespeare's, like, the one thing I'm super pretentious about.
That's fair. I don't think you've ever corrected me on anything Shakespearean.
No, because...
But I also don't talk about Shakespeare.
No, we don't really talk about Shakespeare
aside of, like, plays you've been in and... And mostly like,
mostly like plays I've read and stuff and like my favorites.
And I'm just like, yes.
But the only time I'm pretentious about Shakespeare is when someone tells me they don't like it. When someone's like, I can't stand Shakespeare. I'm like, well, actually.
Your personal opinion is factually wrong.
No, because they're all like, they all say the same shit about it. They're all like, I don't like Shakespeare because it is too hard to understand and like I don't like this I don't get the story and stuff, and I'm like, well, if you want to take a little
have you seen the film 10 Things I Hate About You?
Have you seen the movie The Lion King?
Just gotta start listing off the movies that are literally just Shakespeare adaptations.
Yeah,
that's how you get them, honestly.
That's how you get them.
That's true.
Speaking of which, we're watching Hamlet.
This entire episode is going to be us just giving fake movies. And then the twist at the end is the actual movie. Actually, we already said the name of the movie. You did say it. Yeah.
Bleep it out.
That was muted earlier, so you're probably still curious about what this blur is right here that we've been keeping the entire epismed. Shutter Island is the movie. Hence why I said Scorsese, because I will actually bleep that now officially. I'm going to.
Do we need to talk about a movie today?
This is our off day, you know. We're relaxing, living life.
Okay, so we're watching Shutter Island.
We
just finished watching it, which is hilarious that we're like taking 25 minutes to do a fucking cold open when like I actually desperately want to talk about this movie.
Yeah. We're living in the moment.
So, Caleb, I think you should give a synopsis of this movie, Shutter Island.
Fuck, all right. Putting on my synopsis shoes. Let's a little intense. A lot of pressure on me. All right. So, there's a boat. It's basically there's two detectives. Not
US
detectives,
marshals.
they're marshals. That wasn't a gender assumption. That was just marshals. I can guess occupations. Anyway, there's two US marshals coming on a boat to this island. Basically Alcatraz, but like a mental hospital, and I think fictional. I don't think it's real. I don't think I've ever heard of an Alcatraz mental hospital. So I think it was anyway. So they get to the island, and they're trying to solve a missing an escaped
patient.
Patient, not inmate, but mental patient. That's basically their gist. Things start getting a little loopy, and no one knows what's going on. It's just kind of chaotic, wild shit.
Yeah,
a fun time. But yeah, it's basically just confusion from that point on, pretty much.
Yep.
Like everything changes 3 different times.
Yes.
That's the synopsis.
Correct.
That I will give. 4 out of 10 synopsis.
So the first note that I have written is when so the film is starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Ruffalo as the two U.S. Marshals, right?
Yeah.
The first note that I have is when Leonardo DiCaprio is puking into the toilet and he says, "Pull yourself together." And then under that I wrote, Leo to himself when his girlfriend turns 25.
Bro, you just eviscerated that man. Hey, he's got a 26-year-old girlfriend now, right? Moving up in the world by 1 year. We don't stand Leo, really, that much.
No, I used to.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's an incredible actor, I used to really like him. I love that his final Oscar speech when he first got his first Oscar.
A million years into his career.
That he talked about climate change. I loved that.
And he also has a private jet though that he uses a lot. He's probably done worse. He's one of the worst celebrities for environmental damage, which is funny because his entire Instagram is just him talking about climate change, and he's just a two-faced little bitch. His boyish charm in the 90s, though, am I right? Hot little dude. Little snack.
Speaking
I'm going to be very angry towards these actors today. I'm just feeling very cynical today.
I want you to leave Mark Ruffalo alone.
I will,
unless you give me a really good reason why we don't like him.
No, I don't actually. I don't stand Mark Ruffalo for no reason, actually. I don't know. He just
Is he
he gives me the mid, you know?
The mid? Not the ick.
Not the ick, the mid. I see him and I just shrivel up into midness. Where I'm
Okay.
ugh. There's one movie I liked him in, and it was the film Dark Waters.
It was Thor Ragnarok.
Never. That movie solidified my distaste for him as an actor. He was actually fine in the first Avengers, I'll say that. That's the only Marvel movie I've liked him in. But no, Dark Waters, which ironically is a film about environmental stuff, kind of. It's Teflon, the company Teflon.
Yeah, and how they fucking destroyed everything.
Yeah, and poisoned 99% of the human population, apparently. Literally, that is the actual statistic, I believe. Anyway, it's the movie about that. And he's, really good in it. And he was, a main producer who, helped make the movie. He was a big role in it. That movie's great.
I really like Mark Ruffalo.
Why?
I just do.
Why?
I just do. I'm not here to try to convince you to like Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
But I was just saying that if there was a legitimate reason why we don't like Mark Ruffalo, that I needed you to tell me before I made a fool of myself on camera.
Yeah. Nah, I think he's a pretty chill dude.
Yeah,
I just don't like him.
I follow him on all socials. He posts good shit. He really supports his castmates. He is all around a pretty good dude. He doesn't seem super problematic.
I will say it was funny when he accidentally live streamed the first 15 minutes of Thor Ragnarok before it came out.
As if Tom Holland hasn't done the same thing.
The thing is, I'm going to use this. We're just going to go on a lot of tangents today, so be prepared. But Tom Holland, that Tom Holland, everything he does is fucking staged. None of that shit is him actually. He did it one time on the press tour for real, and ever since then, Marvel just stages everything. Usually they're kind of good with it. Sometimes they're so painfully blatant with it, where it's he'll open up a package on a stream and it'll say property of Marvel Studios on the back, do not show to anybody, and it's dude, this isn't even close to being real. I just hate Tom Holland's marketing stuff.
Anyways, back to the movie.
I wanted to shit on Tom Holland.
I love Tom Holland.
I think we are going to end this podcast today. This is it.
I do. I love him. I think he's cute.
I hate Tom Holland. I hate him.
It's like that post that I sent you where Netflix posted the thing where they were like, so a fan-made poster of the new Legend of Zelda movie came out, and everyone's really mad and is sick and tired of Tom Holland playing everything. So we're really proud to announce our brand new adaptation of the Legends of Zelda, where Tom Holland plays every character.
If there was ever a Legend of Zelda movie with Tom Holland as Link, I think I would have an actual crisis. Like, I'm almost
Link?
tearing.
Isn't it Zelda?
I know you were. I could see you were doing a bit, but I was still just. I'm also just still reeling from the possibility of Tom Holland ever playing like Link. I'm like actually like getting tears in my eyes thinking about like if that happened.
Who would you want to play Link?
Some no-name actor we've never heard of.
Me.
No. Though maybe like a non-binary individual would be like a good pick, because I feel like Link's kind of got that almost like gender neutral side, even though he is like, you know, a he, but I feel like that could be a good casting. But I think you also want to layer him in some CGI too to like touch him up, make it a little fantastical. I think it could work. Anyway, I need to shut the fuck up. We're talking about the movie.
When we're back to Shutter Island, so then they're on the boat and there's like a huge storm and everything. And I wrote Titanic 2.0.
Hey. I mean, fair.
Because he was like, I think he has a line where he's like, there's a lot of water. The water makes me uneasy. I was like, I wonder why.
Flashbacks to his other life.
I wonder why.
Dude.
And then, so we're not talking about what actually happens in the movie.
We're saving
for a
that.
while.
Yeah.
But I did want to point out that even I thought at the beginning it was weird that Mark Ruffalo asked him about his wife, but then doesn't offer anything about his own personal life.
Yes.
Because my main complaint about Mark Ruffalo the entire movie was that I felt that he was very two-dimensional and I didn't understand the purpose of his character.
That you're speaking my fucking language. No, that's literally exactly what I was like writing the entire, like I have so many different notes. There's what is the point of Ruffalo's character? Why is Ruff here? Ruff, get the fuck out. Like repeatedly. It's hilarious because he has no like actual real personality or any, like he doesn't even say anything in most of the scenes. Like he's just there. And I was so like, I will be honest, the first like 40 minutes of the movie I did not care for that much because I was just kind of bored and confused and I was like, bro, what has happened? Like, bro.
I would agree. But I would say that my interest started peaking sooner than yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When did yours start peaking?
Probably as soon as we find the note that says the law of 4 who is 67.
Really? Wow, that is early.
Yeah, that was really early in the movie. I would say that's about when my intro, I was like, because I was like, who is 67?
I did think that note was very interesting, and I loved the way they paid it off later. And then I
started getting bored again. And then I started getting interested again when they started doing the interviews, and which was not that far later, but when they started talking to Mrs. Kearns, and she started being, I thought she was an incredible actor, by the way. I think she played that role really, really well, but when she started getting like the tone shift of her being like starting to get nervous, that's when I was like, oh wait, what is happening?
Honestly, the interviews were really good. Like that I will say, it's even though I wasn't like fully in like until a little after that, the interviews pulled me in for a little bit where I was like, okay, all right, getting some conspiracy
also, I saw
shit.
a nurse in the back of one of the scenes, and I for real thought it was Haley Atwell for a second, and I said, "Jump scare Haley Atwell." You want to talk about an actor that I
trigger
fucking hate.
warning?
I
Haley Atwell.
Hate
she
Haley
sucks.
Atwell.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, no, not great. Yeah.
And then I wrote like prone to headaches. I feel like I'm going to very closely look at my notes for this because I want to like, now that I know everything, I want to look back at everything that I wrote and be like, oh,
okay. I actually will. One of the first notes I wrote, which I think ages a lot better in post, was within the first few scenes I wrote down. I feel like Scorsese films, for me, are either completely crackhead or boring, and this has yet to give me crackhead energy. It gave me a lot of crackhead. It got there.
Yep.
I feel like that was a really funny premonition. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna give me crackhead.
Another note that I think reads way better in post is why ask for them if you don't want to help, which is what I was saying at the beginning when they asked for the U.S. Marshal to come and then was like not willing to give them any information.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, why the fuck do you want them here if you like don't want to help aid in the investigation?
Yeah. No, because I think that's actually the scene with Mark Ruffalo where he brings that up and he's like, well, maybe it's because they want to trap you here and they were like incentivizing you to come here so they could keep you on the island. That was the scene where I got hooked in because it paid off the confusion of being like, why is he here?
Right.
What is
happening?
Yeah, because I feel like I would be really interested in rewatching this a second time just because I feel like the beginning would probably play very, very differently.
Yeah.
But I remember it was just on first viewing. I felt like it was just kind of like meandering. I was like, where are we going with this? It's just kind of, I don't know.
I really liked the primary psychiatrist, the doctor, the bald doctor. I really liked him. I liked his character the entire time.
Honestly, yeah.
He was very nice. I started getting a little iffy about him when I didn't know where it was going. Because I was like, we're about to get a Bo Burnham part 2. And then it didn't happen. I will say,
I did honestly think he was evil for like most of it. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it was the end. I was even at the end. I was still waiting for them to pull the ring, like in the last minute.
I got super annoyed. I think my biggest ick for the movie was I hate World War II movies.
I agree.
I can't stand them.
No, I hate war movies. I hate them so much.
And this played very heavily as a war movie until
like
the end.
Yes,
the flashbacks. There was like jump scare Hitler, and I was like, why? Why does every movie need to have Hitler in it? Like, because I feel like the way that people use World War II is an excuse to show senseless violence on screen without it being problematic because of Nazis. And I feel like, obviously, you know, World War II was a travesty and like Nazis, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an excuse to show a sort of torture porn on screen, but still have it be okay. Yeah.
Honestly, I would agree with that. And it's just boring most of the time.
And so it's
I think World War I movies are also bad, but there's at least a couple World War I movies I've watched.
And like there's a couple World War II movies that I've really enjoyed, but like they're mostly actually following the story of World War II and not just set in World War II as an excuse to like kill people
World
on
War
screen.
II, yay.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Because I think that World War II needs to be studied and it needs to be an important part of history so that we don't repeat it because of the travesties that were committed against human beings. But like we shouldn't use it as settings for movies that aren't around about World War II.
We need some violence. Let's get some weird settings in here.
It's the same fucking shit as like any movie that you want to make PG-13. So in order to have senseless acts of violence, you make Aliens.
Yep. That actually is a really good analogy. Yeah.
It's the same fucking shit. It's why the first Suicide Squad did so bad. Is because it should have been rated R.
True. Spittin'. No, on God. Suicide Squad with its fucking like weird like black clay things that they're fighting. You're like, what the fuck
And
is
it was
this?
like, what it would have done so much better, in my opinion, as a rated R movie.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why The Suicide Squad is probably one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Yes, The Suicide Squad is incredible.
The is very important there.
But Suicide Squad is bad.
It's awful.
It did not do well, and they pushed it out too quickly, and DC was just trying to make it.
Just a mess, yeah.
Anyways.
Moral story, war movies just kind of suck.
Yeah.
I've had 2 war movies I've ever seen that I enjoyed, and I think they were both World War One. Maybe? Yeah, because 1917, fucking peak. It's all like a one-shot movie, the whole movie. And it's him like going to deliver a message in the war. Fucking amazing. And then also The King's Man, which is a prequel to the Kingsman movies. And I thought of that earlier when you said the Hitler like popping out, because it just reminded me of how that movie has a post-credit scene, right? It's like a Marvel movie style post-credit scene. It's taking place in the war. Who are they going to tease? What are they teasing? Hitler comes. I'm not even joking. Like, there's someone in the shadows at the end of the movie and all the villains are there and they look over and then he walks out and he's like, Adolf Hitler. And it's like a Marvel post-credit scene with Hitler. I'm not gonna lie, it was like the funniest shit I've ever seen.
Also, I think I wrote in my notes at least 7 times The Lighthouse Part 2.
No, I literally wrote it so many times. And it's so funny because it's like weird. Like, how this is the second movie we've watched that takes place on an island where someone is going insane during a hurricane and they want to get to a specific part of the lighthouse. What?
And it kept showing the lighthouse and
It was, and the funniest thing too is I was writing this shit down before they even introduced the lighthouse. Like already, because I wrote down at one point, I wrote Schrodinger's Cat Part 2, baby. I was like, I'm about to go on another random ramble. That was before they even got back to the lighthouse, and it was like, okay, yeah. I also, I'm realizing it's gonna be really funny since David specifically is the one who is angry about us not talking about the movie, and then our most rambly episode is gonna be the one that is his favorite movie of all time, where we don't talk about the movie at all.
He's gonna stop being friends with me. He will not want to talk to me after this.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough. I mean, already he likes my boyfriend more than me, which is rude. So
pain. Where's the equality? Where's the justice?
I did.
We're getting personal.
I didn't think that you said equality. I thought you said a-quality, like 2 different words, a-quality. So you were like, "Where's the a-quality?" And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean?" Okay, can I talk about one major ick that I had with the cinematography?
Ooh, okay, yes, because I would love to talk about cinematography.
Okay, so there, at least in the first part of the movie, I didn't notice it as much as in the second half of the movie, but there kept being still image shots. Where it was just a singular image that it held on for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it would move back into motion. Yeah. And it made me crazy.
When you say still image, do you mean like
it looked like a picture?
Yeah, but like it was still video, but it was just that it was so still that it was like that, is what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. But I thought it was just like a picture.
Because that is very close to a bunch of notes I was writing actually as well, where I was very back and forth on the cinematography specifically during the first half, because I felt huge segments the camera was very stagnant and like not moving, and I was like, oh my god, this is driving me insane, there's no movement.
Yes. Yeah. And then it would be like they would, like, the actors also wouldn't be moving. Like it would be completely still. And then it would switch shots and they'd be moving again. And I was like, fucking stop doing that. The other thing that drove me batshit was during the hurricane. It looked like someone was taking the camera and just going like this.
Yes.
They're like, ooh, hurricane.
Beautiful. No, I hear. So it's funny because I felt like, especially in the first half, the indoor scenes and the outdoor scenes had very different like feels to them. Where all the indoor scenes, I did not like the way they were shot for like a long while. Like the first several indoor scenes, I fucking hate. Like they looked like they were almost like TV films with how little the camera moved.
Yes, and it was like I can sense that vibe. That wasn't like necessarily what I was thinking, but I was like, there's something off about this. Like, this feels like a TV show.
Yeah, it was just so strange to me because I'm like, well, what is? Also, and then outside, it finally had more dynamic movement. Then we back inside. But okay, you want to say you're also, and then maybe I'll add my butt.
The special effects were terrible.
Oh yeah, I agree. CGI particularly the burn on her. I was like dying.
I wrote that note when she crumpled.
Yeah, no, I think I wrote it both. When I first saw the burn, I was like, bro, what is the CGI? I'm fucking crying in here. And then when she crumpled apart, I was just like, bro, the CGI is about to make me laugh out loud. On God, what is this shit, bro? Because the funniest thing is they play it seriously. Like, they're trying to make us be like, oh, but it's like she's like
much of this movie that was played so seriously that you and I were actually cackling.
We were literally laughing throughout. It was great, honestly. A good time.
And we did not talk to each other like at all. We
just communicated through laughs. Like, look over, be like,
the biggest example of us communicating through laughs was when we meet Rachel in the cave, and he's like, so who are you, Rachel? And she tells him that she like studies psychiatry, and he was like, you were a nurse? She goes, I'm a doctor.
Hit too close to home.
Oh my God, that's peak.
I felt called out, man. It was hilarious.
You're as bad as Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh no. It was so fucking funny though. For like the rest of time when that kind of shit comes up, I'm gonna have to just like be like, damn. Check myself again. Okay, what I was gonna say lastly with the cinematography though, just to end on this. I think, and I might be off on this, but I started thinking about this as the movie went on because the cinematography got way better. I wonder if some of it was very intentional. Now, this is what I'm thinking, right? Because early in the movie, he's having some of those like flashbacks or dream sequences. And I remember I kept writing down in my notes, wow, all of these like flashbacks and hallucinations and dream sequences are way more interestingly shot than everything else in the movie. Like it would just suddenly like look really good and then it would go back to looking boring. But as the film goes on, he gets more crazy, more hallucinations come up because he's like withdrawn. Yeah. I almost got to the spoilers. It's fine. But as, you know, things go more wild, it gets more abstract, whatever, it looks better and better and better. So I almost wonder if it was like intentionally tied, like very stable cameras to him, like seemingly grounded in reality. And when things start going off the rails,
that's
camera
when it gets interesting.
Yeah.
No, I think that is 100% what happened.
Yeah.
And so I think we should talk about the twist. It's not like we're fucking talking about anything this episode anyway.
That's fair. Yeah, I was like about to like go like fully details, and I was like, wait, no, yeah.
So essentially. I'm going to try to give this in the most concise way possible. So what we as an audience think is happening is that the two U.S. Marshals are here.
Yeah.
And that through uncovering different events that are happening here, that Leo's character is going to be able to take this back to the mainland and show that Nazi-style experiments are being performed on these prisoners. While he's here, he's also looking for a man named Ladakis.
It's something like an A, right?
It's Andrew Ladakis or something. Flame me in the comments. I don't care. But the thing is, Leo says...
Oh, yeah, it's Latest.
Latest, yes.
Damn,
I just added a K in there.
I just removed the L. I thought it was just Atis.
No, it's Laeus. Andrew Laeus. That a man named Andrew Laeus killed his wife by setting the apartment on fire. And that while they're here, the patient that they're looking for is named Rachel. So they find Rachel and they show him Rachel, and she goes crazy, thinks that he's her husband, Jim. And
then gets angry at him for not being...
She's like, I buried you. Who the fuck are you?
She literally just comes up and she's like forcing him to be Jim. And she's like, you're Joe. Oh my God, I've been waiting for you. I want to talk to you. And then finally he's like, okay. And he's like trying to comfort her. He's like, oh, she's like really sad. He's like, oh, it'll be okay. It's fine. And then immediately she pushes him off. She's like, who the fuck are you? My husband's dead. It's like, so you're the one who set this up.
So then the hurricane is happening, so they can't leave. They start talking about this more. Leo's character starts talking to Mark Ruffalo's character about how he's basically here to avenge his wife and stuff. So he starts getting really enthralled with this lighthouse and like what's happening in there.
Yeah, he starts thinking there's like brain surgery going on. They're experimenting on people.
Yes, he thinks that Chuck, which is Mark's character, has died because he sees his body at the bottom of a cliff. So he climbs down there. When he climbs down there, he finds a cave. In the cave is the real Rachel. He starts talking to her. And then Rachel convinces him that they've been drugging him. They're trying to make him think that he's crazy. They want to keep him here as a prisoner. Yeah. So then he comes back. The warden gets him, takes him in. He escapes, does a bunch of damage, and then goes to the lighthouse. He finally gets to the lighthouse, right? Yeah. And when he gets to the lighthouse, at the top is the really nice psychiatrist who's like, hey, buddy. It's like basically informs him that he's been a prisoner for the last 2 years. Yeah. That his name in the movie is Teddy or Theodore something. And that's an anagram for Andrew Laius.
Yeah. And like that, all the different names are
anagrams.
Yes,
and they're anagrams, and that he is Andrew Laius, and that he killed his wife. And why did he kill his wife? And then he's like, where's Chuck? Where's Chuck? And Chuck comes in, and Chuck turns out to be his primary psychiatrist for the last 2 years.
Oh my God.
Who is under the name of Shanann? Something like that.
I don't remember his name.
And he was the psychiatrist that had left earlier. Yeah. That was Rachel's primary psychiatrist. And that's his primary psychiatrist. Oh. And that the children that he keeps seeing in his visions are actually his children that he has blocked out of his memory because his wife, Dolores, killed his children. She was a manic depressive, suicidal woman who had episodes of psychosis. Yeah. She drowns her children in a lake, and because she drowns her children in a lake, he shot her and killed her. And so then you start to like all these pieces fall into place. You realize that like, because at first you're like with Leo, you're like, nah, fuck you, man.
Yeah, don't try to trick us, bro. Like, you can't get us again.
We saw the lighthouse. You can't fucking fool us. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. And God. And then as things start getting explained to you, you're like, oh wait, no, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. And so he leaves. He like faints. Because he keeps seeing visions of his wife, right? And then you realize that, like, those are not dreams. They're actual hallucinations that he keeps having, which is why he keeps, like, regressing. Yeah. And so he wakes up in a bed, and essentially the reason that they've been letting him take the run of the hospital for the last 2 days is because if he doesn't start behaving, they're going to lobotomize him. Yeah. And it's going to essentially ruin all this work that this psychiatrist has been working on. And so at the end of the movie, you see Mark Ruffalo's character go back up to him, and because he admits everything to the warden. And he's like, no, my name is Andrew Laius. I killed my wife because she killed my children and all this stuff. And then the next day you see Mark Ruffalo's character go back up to him and is like, hey, how we doing today? And he regressed back again. And he goes, we're going to
get off this island,
We got to get off this island, Chuck. And then they send him in for a lobotomy, and that's how it ends.
Yep. This is why you give the synopses. She's so much better at it than I am.
I mean, there's more stuff that happens in it.
That was a really good.
I will say, with what we know now, I am still confused about the interviees that took place.
Yeah, I was thinking about
because she wrote "run" in his notebook.
Yeah,
Miss Kearns did.
No, that was literally. I almost started talking to you about that as soon as the movie ended. I had to hold myself, and I was like, "No, I can't talk now." No, I was really interested because it's like they were under the impression when the interviews were happening and right after, Leo and Ruff. That's what I'm going to call them because I don't want to remember their names. No, Leo's all like, "Hey, yo, yeah, no, they were." They were being fed lines. They were. This is all script. Like they were told what to say. Yeah. This was all planned. That's why they were so nervous, and just because everything they were saying was what they were told to say. They're like being, that's all this stuff. But really, I guess they were nervous because
well, now that you say that,
a patient, or were they told what to say?
I think they were told what to say
Because it was role play.
It was role play,
Yeah.
and so I think that's Mark Ruffalo's character being like, "No, bro, they were being told what to say. Like they were come back to me, come back to me. They were being told what to say." Or something like that. But Mark Ruffalo's character has been playing along with this role play the whole time.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo's character... See, the weird thing with Mark Ruffalo's character that I don't get is the really interesting scene in the movie when he's the one who... He suggests the idea that the island is trying to, or that the hospital or whatever, the asylum's trying to, trap him on this island, that they led him here intentionally, and that's why they got the marshal trying to bring him over. He puts that idea in his head. Why? I did not understand that, in retrospect.
In retrospect, I also don't understand it, but I feel like it has something to do with they've played this dance before. And so maybe this was a conclusion
Getting
that
to it faster?
Yes.
Yeah, speeding up the process. That makes sense, honestly.
That would be my best guess, but I don't actually know the answer.
Yeah, and I guess, his hallucinations seem to mostly be his wife. I think everything else seems pretty...
They were mostly his wife. He did...
So we can trust him.
Have a hallucination about who he thought was Andrew Laius. Because he said when he's describing it to Chuck, he's like, this guy had 2 different colored eyes and a scar that reached all the way down.
Yeah,
and so
right.
I would be interested to see kind of what that meant. Because initially, so he wears a bandage on his forehead the entire time.
That's right.
And so originally I was thinking he's describing himself, but a more disfigured version of himself, right? Where he's he has a scar but what if he just has a little scar? But I think it's interesting that he specifically describes who he thinks Andrew Laius is as having heterochromia.
Yeah. Did they ever come back around to that detail at all? I don't remember anything about...
I'm trying to Google it, but we should take a break real quick.
So, Caitlin is not finding...
No, I didn't find anything about, what it actually was. But I do have a theory, right? And I feel like this theory is going to be offensive to specifically my boyfriend.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say some big group of people. I was start saying some real... I was about to get a little worried. No. Got scared.
So my theory is that the vision that Leo has of Andrew Laius in the dream is a monstrified version of himself.
Yeah. And I think that is,
Yeah, and that he has a big distaste. So at the end of the movie, his last line is to live as a monster or die as a good man.
Yeah.
And so I think that he had been viewing himself as a monster. And the reason I say it's offensive to specifically my boyfriend is my boyfriend has heterochromia. Yeah. And so I think that it's just the 60s. They don't understand, and so they're ooh, spooky.
Heterochromia. Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Yeah, the only thing I could think of with eyes is that they said that the was it the lobotomy specifically, or the brain procedure was going through the eye, right?
No, that would also probably makes more sense.
Maybe I don't know how specifically it relates, but I just know that I was trying to think when I was did they ever bring that back? The only thing I could think of was that, because I remember that was all focused on the eye. They basically say for viewers and listeners, they were gonna poke out through his eye to cut out his brain. Basically, that was how the procedure went. So maybe it's that. Maybe not. I again, even with the cinematography thing earlier, I feel I might be pulling the classic move of reading too much into stuff.
Well, and I think that's also the beauty of art in general. Is it's up for our interpretation.
I will agree with
say
that.
Though, and this was something I wanted to say earlier, is that this is the kind of psychological thriller, the kind of mind fuck that works for me, as opposed to something like The Lighthouse or A24 movies in general, which is that too much is left up to your your interpretation, whereas like I want to know what the answer is, right? I want a conclusion. And so there's these forms of symbolism and little things that we can pick apart and be like, oh, what did this really mean? But at the end of the day, we get a pretty clear answer. It doesn't leave you wondering if he is a psychiatric patient or if he is a U.S. Marshal who's being manipulated. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of would have preferred if they had left, because they set it up so well. I know. I was fine with the way I liked the way it ended.
This is the difference between you and me. Yeah, I would prefer for you to tell me what happened and then have me be like, oh, what the fuck? And then want to go back and rewatch the movie and be like, look at it through the new lens, as opposed to being like, ooh.
But I don't know. It's like they set it up because the psychiatrist even goes like, you literally crafted a reality where nothing we could ever possibly say to you could take as real, because in your reality it's all a conspiracy, and that this is all drug. Like everything is perfectly manufactured in your conspiracy to never let anything we say be true. But then the same is true for the other side. Regardless of which truth you take, it completely nullifies the other. So it's like two direct options. And like if it's conspiracy, then everything the psychiatrist is saying is lie. If it's his actual mental illness, then everything that he's thinking is not true. But then they just actually tell the truth. I don't know. I was like, damn. But I still liked it. I will say I still enjoyed that they like brought a conclusion to it. I think it worked especially because of the flashback scene they show with his wife. I think that scene is like what makes the like the solid ending work for it, because it gives that closure.
I also I liked that all of the actresses that played Rachel vaguely looked alike.
Yeah.
What I didn't like, though, is that Dolores is blonde. And so I would have liked better if all three of them looked alike. Because we find out that it's a hallucination. Like, they're all illusions and stuff. If he's having illusions of people who are vaguely his wife, I think it would have made more sense, especially when he goes into the cell and sees Rachel and she hugs him because she thinks he's Jim. Yeah. And he hugs her back and he's like, I'm so sorry. I think if they all three would have looked alike, there would have been another layer to the cake.
Okay. I mean, it is really interesting. I like that they kind of put his trauma into each of these different characters, and like it really does come full around. And that's why, even though I would have liked, I do fuck with an ambiguous ending, I think it works better this way for the story they were specifically telling, because for his trauma to have that conclusion, it works really well for each of these different hallucinations he's having, these different people to have specific purposes and ties to his own trauma.
I think also you could make an argument that, so they interview two people, right? Two patients. I think you could make an argument that both of those patients also tie back to his trauma. Because the first one, the super racist one, it was like really funny, but also incredibly problematic. Just like says the N-word and like, she wanted me to pull my out, like
I thought I was watching a Tarantino movie for a second.
What is happening? I saw that in your notes when you set your notes down. And you were like, he thinks he's Tarantino. What is happening with his use of the N-word? But I think that, so that man like ripped off half of the nurse's face, right? Like that was his crime. In Leo's flashback, you see the SS soldier who shot himself. He tried to commit slewer slide, but it didn't work, and half of his face was disfigured. And then the Mrs. Kearns, you see her, and her crime is that she killed her husband with an axe. And yes, Leo shot his wife, but he still killed his wife. So I think that an argument could be say that those were two parallels to his own trauma as well.
Yeah. Honestly.
Maybe not as strong as some of the other ties, but like I think an argument could be made.
I think that's fair. Yeah. That's really, oh man. It's very curious. Okay. Here's a question I have actually though. What actual mental illness did he have? Did Leo have?
I would think that it would have to be a form of psychosis.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and this is a thought that I had through most of the movie, is I don't I understand it as a form of storytelling, but I also don't love using mental illness as a form of like scare tactics. Like, I don't super love things that take place in mental asylums. I think that it's very easy to be done distastefully, and while there are certain mental illnesses that can result in extreme violence, that is can be criminally charged, that I think as a whole it is a problematic view to continuously use mental patients as your bad guys, as like, ooh, look at how crazy they are, like, look at how dangerous they are.
Absolutely. No,
It adds to the stigma around mental illnesses.
I agree. I was writing some similar stuff in my notes kind of early on. I wasn't sure what the exact like term for it, because I was like, I don't think ableist exactly applies, but like it's kind of, it's like putting a stigma on like mental illness, and like especially when like they're emphasizing as they're walking into the asylum for the first time, the very beginning of the movie, before we know anything, they're like, each of the patients they show are like they seem like they're trying to be like scary. They're like, ooh, look at these people with mental illness. It's like, well, that's a little like, all right.
That's a little problematic.
Yeah.
And they usually show them as being disfigured and having to have some sort of outward disability as well as a mental disability.
Yeah. I do think there are a lot of ways to do it well. And I like the setting of an asylum in theory if you're going to really like explore that.
Right.
I think I like when things that deal with mental illness like are factual about it and like actually portray it. Right. And that's why I'm also like with like Leo, I'm like, I mean, I don't know a ton about psychosis. I know like a little bit, but I'm not sure like how similar that is to like actual psychosis, because
and I'm also not sure that it necessarily has to be a specific definable mental illness. And the reason that I say that is because there's all sorts of regression that happens, and I don't know if there's an actual mental illness that is tied to that, as opposed to just like your brain's natural defense against experiencing trauma.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think you kind
of a lot of people, and I know that you and I have talked about this, and while I wouldn't say my childhood was traumatic, there was like a lot of parts of my childhood that I don't remember because of like how often I moved and like stuff like that. Stuff that was too big for me to handle at the time.
Memory repression.
I have a lot of memory repression from my childhood.
Twinsies.
See, this proves that we're in frame together.
Oh yeah, this is, unless I'm just a really good editor, which I am. So
I mean, I would say that I had a really good childhood, but like my parents got divorced, we moved a lot, and that was too much. I didn't have the tools in my toolbox growing up to be able to handle that, and so a lot of my childhood I don't remember.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I am very similar with that memory repression, hitting like a bitch. I think it almost reminded me, like the way he specifically was like seeing things in different places and stuff, almost a little bit of like dementia in a way, where it's like people with dementia, that's like the only like kind of illness, like mental illness I'm like super aware of that like can do that kind of thing, like memory displacement, putting you in old like locations you're not at, like to that level. I have no idea really. I'm just always curious to like learn. So I would be curious. I mean, if anyone knows like specifically, if any psychiatrists watching, I'm curious.
Tell us like what the facts are.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear if you've seen this movie. Like, what would you say is like the diagnosis there?
And
like,
also,
is it real, accurate?
Yeah, and also like how problematic is it?
Yeah,
Because I felt like there were parts of it that got pretty problematic, especially like you were saying at the beginning, where they're showing these people who are disfigured, and also like stop portraying disfigurement as like a form of being scary. Like people can have not standard beauty defining things, and like I don't know, I feel like it can be used, but also I feel like it's overused.
I agree. I think there's been really just like one instance I've ever seen where I thought it was used effectively and it like worked for me, and it was just Midsummer, honestly. Because there's like one character in that who's pretty disfigured, and that it's not like expressly like a jump scare or anything. It's just like a facet of this village, and it is like a little disconcerting, but that's largely because then they like kind of imply there's like incest implications and like a lot of weird stuff. And but like that character isn't like actually like, they're one of the most harmless characters in the entire movie, and I feel like it worked really well for that because there was like some discomfort to it, but then it ended up not like it served a greater purpose, and I thought it worked well for it. That's the only anyway. Sorry, that just comes to mind as like the only time I've seen that where I was like,
and I feel like
angry about
there's
it.
a lot of use of like, especially when you're portraying like villains and like serial killers and stuff, like one that pops into mind is specifically, and neither one of them are like disfigured, but I think a form of disfigurement is like Killmonger in Black Panther. Although I am very, very hesitant to use any terms of disfigurement because it was like scarification, which is used in tribes. But also like Zaz from the DC universe,
I love
where and it's kind of the same.
It's the exact same thing
where they mark off for every kill that they land, and I feel like that works. Because it's kind of, it adds to kind of the scary thing. But I think, you know, I am really hesitant to have any sort of like, oh, look at this person, they have rotten teeth, like or like, here's this person, they have a hunchback, like, ooh, look at how scary they are. That doesn't work for me.
I think that's fair. I can feel you there. I was gonna say Freddy Krueger is who I was someone I was thinking of when you were saying people with disfigurement. I think that's like one of those cases where like his entire thing is like, ooh, my face is disfigured, bro.
Right.
Crazy. And I'm like,
ooh.
Wow.
Because that's how you get the Phantom of the Opera. Be nice to people.
These are the real life lessons here.
I mean, seriously though, just like be nice to people and stop thinking people are scary.
True.
Just because of the way they look.
Although technically I think Freddy Krueger murdered people before he was scarred. I think actually the scar is like lore reasons, but still.
I've never seen Friday the 13th, so.
Damn, bro.
I wouldn't know.
It's on the docket.
You're gonna edit all this to make me sound good and like non-problematic, right?
Yes. Maybe. I don't know how this episode's gonna end up, to be honest.
I honestly
we didn't even
no
do
idea.
we didn't even introduce the podcast.
We did it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Cynical Cinephiles podcast. My name is Caitlin.
And I'm the other guy. Or the guy, I guess.
I think you shouldn't use that as the intro. I think you should leave it exactly where it is.
It's just gonna be. I mean, it fits. I think.
So when he had a dream in a dream, I also wrote Inception Part 2. So far we have.
Dude.
Are
we like exactly the same person? Are we like mentally? I shit you not. I just literally wrote Dream Within a Dream, Inception 2. Dude, that's actually nuts. That's literally like almost, except that she said part 2 and I just said 2. That's other than that, it's exactly the same.
So far we have crazy. Titanic Part 2, Lighthouse Part 2,
Inception 2. Wow, that is crazy. It kind of was. That was literally what I was thinking. I was like, bro, they go in Inception with this shit. And Inception does leave on an ending that leaves you thinking if it's still.
I've never seen it. I think out of the 3 movies that we mentioned, I've seen The Lighthouse because you made me, and then I watched Titanic because my stepmom made me. And I enjoyed watching it with her.
She hasn't watched Inception.
I haven't.
Next you're gonna tell me you haven't watched The Matrix. Oh wait.
And then again, I wrote, "Why is there always a lighthouse?"
Every time we got a second lighthouse on our fucking board here. Yeah.
I put that's a lot of rats, and then I wrote this feels like how the cave happened, but I meant to write plague, like because he was like with all these rats.
Yeah,
I was like, this feels like how the plague happened.
That's fair. That was the beginning of it. That's when you realize you're like, oh yeah, no, he's seeing some shit.
And then in the sorry, I'm just like reading my notes now. Like this is good content.
Yeah.
When he's in the cave with fake Rachel. And she's like, no, it's like Nazi experiments. The Nazis had POWs. The Soviets had whatever. Yeah. And we'll have this. I wrote, oh, it's a real war movie.
Those were the weapons all along. No, the funniest thing is with that scene, I remember because that scene goes on a little while. Like it's a pretty chunky scene, and it's like what, 7 minutes maybe, and it's because she's just like basically delivering exposition and like feeding him like the whole twist when we think that this is maybe the reality is that she's just delivering all of it. She's like, okay, so your partner maybe not really like all these different things. She's like just breaking it all down, right? And I remember I was very confused, and I had written this down a little bit where I was like, if this is like actually like the twist, this is the weirdest way to like he's not discovering the conspiracy, he's just being told this by like one person, and she just goes for 7 like breaking every detail down, and I was like, I mean, is it sure? And then I had actually written down after that, I was like, you know, it would be really funny if she was actually crazy and like everything she was saying was like meaningless. And it wasn't exactly that because she wasn't real, but it was still somewhat similar. It was just like we went for 7 minutes just hearing lies.
Because it's him like explaining to himself. It's him like justifying to himself.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Also, I want to give a disclaimer. I joke about slew or slide a lot in my personal life, mainly in forms of like talking about like the apocalypse, where I'm like, oh, this is about when I would kill myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in my notes, I wrote, I like Rachel. And then I put, kind of seems like a time to kill myself. Because usually when we're in like these kind of like dystopian movies, I know myself. I know I wouldn't last. Toby and I talk about this all the time. If we were in a zombie apocalypse, if someone announced like, hey, zombies are real, this is happening, I'm gone. You know what I mean? Like I'm out of here. I'm not any sort of like apocalypse kind of thing. Whenever we're watching a movie and like something traumatic is happening, I like to diagnose the exact moment where I'd be like, and I'm out. You know what I mean?
Peace out, homies.
And so that was it for me.
When
she was like, no, it's like Nazi experiments. They're going to keep you on this island forever. I was like, and I'm out.
Yep. Finna leave.
And so I would like to apologize in advance if I trigger anyone, or like if I mention like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself or something like that. If you find that offensive, I really don't mean it. Suicide is real. And it was something I specifically noticed when we were talking about Promising Young Woman last week, where I was like, oh, we like gave a trigger warning for SA, but we didn't give a trigger warning for suicide. And I feel like we talked about that in a much lighter manner, which I don't feel like is appropriate. But also like this is my form of sense of humor, which is bad and probably something I should seek therapy for.
I mean, that's fair. I think if you're not like going in depth and describing, like if you're going like fully into it, then I think that's when it prompts a trigger warning. But I think we have, as a society, have at least reached a point where we can talk about it more lightly, because that helps raise like awareness. Like if we're all aware of it,
I like you, Caleb.
Hey, 7 episodes in, or 6 some amount of episodes.
Well, this will be our 6th episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How long have we been on this Lighthouse?
I am so worried about being canceled. It is my biggest fear. We are not a big podcast.
Don't be.
I just feel like I need to explain everything that I say that I feel like might get me canceled. What if someone comes back to like episode 6 of your podcast and they're look at what Caitlin said about this, and she's awful.
I think it's not an important worry, because I believe that if something ever happens, then you just come out and be like, I was wrong. If someone actually points out something you actually said was incorrect, and I think you just come out and be like, that was bad of me. I'm learning.
So I shouldn't edit myself.
I don't think so. Or at least don't be too like worried about being canceled. Like don't like be like, oh, I can't say this, I'm gonna get canceled. I think it's good to speak your mind.
Then I'm gonna kill myself.
And might not get canceled. We just might not get monetized by YouTube. It's all right.
That's fine. Right. We'll make money other ways. We're crafty. We're crafty bitches.
And this whole segment will be cut so that YouTube doesn't flag us.
So going on, what else do you have to talk about?
I had one other thing I was gonna say. Fuck, what was it? Oh yeah, okay. Combining a couple previous points we had together, we're going for the Frankenstein monster of arguments right here. Not argument, but just like interesting thing I was just thinking about right now. So we were talking about how I like very abstract films and how this doesn't fit into that mold exactly.
Yeah.
And there was something else I was connecting to that. But I don't know. I'm thinking Okay. Oh no, I don't know. The other thing I was connecting it to is our topic or our discussion on whether or not the portrayal of mental illness is maybe a little like yikes, right? And I almost wonder if like, I think for me at least, I think my issue is because of how it's explicitly tied like for sure to mental illness, right? And how it's like that's the resolution they give at the end is like, oh, it was mental illness, and now you can figure it out all from there. If you're watching like if this was like if they didn't like fully clarify that at the end, it was like all abstract, right? Then you could still say these are like hallucinations maybe, or like other parts of himself, but you could like see it without diagnosing it as an illness. You're like, this is a representation for these different sides of himself. He is coming to terms with this, and you could take it literally or like, not as literally. But because it's like they specifically ascribe it as a mental illness, that's where it kind of gets weird for me. It's where it's like you could do this in a more abstract way and maybe be a little more tactful with it. You could still have these like inner character struggles. It doesn't have to be mental illness. Like mental illness, I don't think actually brought anything to his character in the end. Like all of the resolution, him cracking or like losing or like gaining this whatever, or going into psychosis, I don't think that really added anything extra other, because like we saw the trauma happen, but like it wasn't a huge point that like I don't know. I don't think it went in depth enough on like his mental illness for it to like warrant, like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that.
My argument against that is that if they would have gone more abstract, I wouldn't have gotten it. I wouldn't have understood because I have a pea brain. I have a hermit crab that lives inside my brain, and sometimes when it goes like this, that's when I have a thought.
Yeah.
And so like I said, I will stand by. I liked how hit you in the face with what it wanted you to think.
No, that's fair. I still think I do prefer the way it was, but I do think it's at least an interesting thing to think
For
about
sure.
when we're thinking about specifically like the way that they use mental illness as like the explainer for everything at the end. But I do still think the way it concludes, I like how much it resolves it specifically because it ties back into his character, and I think works really well for it.
So we're gonna skip scandals. There's not any. The biggest scandal is that Leonardo DiCaprio is himself.
There is one news story that is not that related at all, and it's a very brief thing. I'm only going to say it because I happen to see it. Not even looking specifically. Okay, so because I knew we were watching the Scorsese movie, and then I just was like randomly like, oh, I want to look at some Scorsese stuff, and I was like kind of going back through some of his filmography, and I remembered I was like, oh yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. That was a movie. I was thinking about that a little bit.
He directed Wolf of Wall Street.
He did.
He's the reason that there's so many financial bros.
I mean, if you become a financial bro after watching Wolf of Wall Street, I feel
I do know how many men are like Wolf of Wall Street.
I feel like it's not the ideal life. Maybe that just says more about me. I don't know. But no, that was the movie he directed right after this. And this isn't less about Shutter Island, more about that movie. But what I found interesting is that apparently before making Shutter Island, he had actually secured a deal to like work on that, and he'd worked on like Wolf of Wall Street for 6 months, and Warner Brothers just like was like, well, we're gonna make it eventually, but like, and they just kept kind of tugging him around, and then he's like, well, fuck you, and then he went off and made Shutter Island. He's like, find someone else, and then he fully made Shutter Island, and then like another year passed, and they come back, they're like, so it's just like they come back. Like I think it was a different company at that point actually, but it was still like the same project ended up back in his hands, where he's just like, well, I guess I'm still doing this. I just thought that was really interesting, where he literally like was trying to do that, and then he just like dropped it, made a whole movie, made this whole thing, and then came back to it. Which, by the way, we haven't mentioned this. This was apparently based on a novel.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Also, one other random news thing I did read very briefly. Apparently, that last line where you probably remember it better. The one monster
I haven't read
line. One of like the main thesis that I'm forgetting because I'm dumb.
Is it better to live as a monster or to die as a good man?
Yes, that line apparently was not in the novel. And there was like a lot of contention about it because it was like it gave like an entirely new meaning to the story that wasn't there. But I think I think
it worked.
Yeah, I think it worked really well. Apparently, I think I didn't fully read it, so I don't really know. But the author, I think, ended up adding more to like what it meant and was like retroactive. I was like, yeah, that does apply to the story. But I didn't actually like fully read it.
Dear author, that 100% applied to the story. Also, can we talk about how at the end, sorry, before we continue, this was the last point I wanted to make officially before we get into quote of the movie, is that I think when he says that line, he knows he's about to go get a lobotomy. I think he knew.
I agree. Or at least like subconsciously.
Yeah.
Like he definitely had some awareness.
Went willingly to go get the lobotomy.
I agree. Which, that's kind of
because I kind of thought it was going to end with him, like he was
himself? That's literally what I thought too.
I thought he was going to because he was like standing up to go walk and get his lobotomy, and I thought he was just going to do it.
I thought he was going to like pull a knife out of somewhere.
Yeah.
That's literally
could have been Rachel's knife. You remember when she had that?
No, I didn't, but now I do.
No, because remember, he's like, you need to show me what's behind your back.
That's right.
And she pulls out a knife.
Which was pretty funny, honestly. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty solidly funny. Speaking of funny moments, we do have quotes.
Okay.
So let's read them, because that's like the segment. Quote of the movie.
Okay.
We need a sound effect at one point to go along when we say quote of the movie. Not that one.
So the first quote that I have written down is "Sanity isn't a choice."
My first quote too. Same wavelength today.
We are. I don't know why we're so in sync right now.
We're just slowly converting.
We also never talked about the law of four and who is 67.
That is true. The anagram is related to that, where each of the names were.
It was like the law of four, and then he was 67. It's fine.
Yeah. I think maybe we're so in sync because one of us is actually a hallucination by the other that represents
Stop. I was talking about this.
Part of ourselves.
I was talking about this to Toby last night, where I was like, every once in a while, I think that I'm no joke. I wasn't. We had not seen this movie yet. I had no idea what it was about. But I was talking to Toby last night where I was like, sometimes I feel like, what if I'm in like a mental hospital, or if I'm like in a coma or something and I'm hallucinating all of this, and like it really fucks with me when I'm like specifically depressed, because I'm like, what if? And then Toby was like, wake up, and then we fought. Just kidding, we didn't fight, but it was it actually ruined my mood for the rest of the night.
All right.
Anyways, back to quoting.
I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Okay, this is one I really like, where he just goes, "You have outstanding defense mechanisms."
That was so good.
I think it's also ages well later on too. As it goes on.
I think. Oh yeah, that really does age well.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is a huge contender for quote of the movie is "We haven't heard the truth yet."
Honestly, yeah.
Mark Ruffalo's character says it.
I know I have one in here that I was really wanting to push for. I haven't gotten to it yet. We'll find out. I don't remember what it is. Here's a random one. It's just I thought it was what it was. Just like, yeah, he was a nice college kid, socialist. I was like, hey.
It wasn't warfare. It was murder.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's kind of the sort of thing.
I mean, true. Yeah. No. Yeah. I concur.
I have a comedy one, but you go first.
I have just when he's having the vision of what ends up being his daughter, and he picks her up, and she just goes, "I'm dead." And it was played seriously, but also it was very funny. She's just, "I'm dead."
So I have when they're talking about the hurricane, and there's like all the doctors together, and the one doctor was like, like, we can't cuff them down. Like, what if it floods? Like, they'll die. And they're like, that doesn't seem realistic. And he's like, a lot of flooding seems like a distinct possibility.
Says hurricanes, usually how that goes. And then the backup generator did die, so he was also wrong. Because he was like, no, the backup generator will take care of it. Yeah. So really, he was in the wrong there, actually. Pain times. But, oh yeah, you know how a hydrogen bomb works? With hydrogen.
Too.
Oh god.
And then my gym is dead, so who the fuck are you?
that scene was so funny. Oh my god.
Under that I wrote, can anyone make any good choices in any movie? Because he starts taking the pills, and at this point we think it's like we think they're drugging him, because I had thought that by the second time that he took the pills, I'm like, oh no, they're drugging him to make him go crazy.
Yeah.
And so I was like, taking the pills seems like a bad idea. Can anyone make any good choices in any movie?
No, yeah, I think I wrote down multiple times. Oh, those pills are sus. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
Not a good call. I think there was also, this is just a moment, not a quote, but I think you had a similar reaction when I looked over that I did, which is the scene when he's going over to the lighthouse. He's with our boy Ruff, and then Ruffalo's like, yeah, I'm gonna come with you. He's like, no, you're not. Leave. Get out of here. He sends him away. He comes right back to the same spot. It's like, where are you? It's like, you told him to leave.
He left, my guy.
Yeah, oh god.
And then I wrote back to your I'm dead. She goes, I'm dead. And he goes, I'm so sorry.
That's so fucking funny, bro. I also, of course, we already mentioned this, that you were a nurse. I was a doctor, Marshall. Which is fucking just too perfect, honestly.
I have another big contender for quote of the movie. And I think this one might be it. Okay. So they're in the orderly outfits and they're trying to sneak out of Ward C where they're not supposed to be. And Leo goes, just keep going. We belong here.
Ooh, that's a good. Oh my god. I have one which is just God loves violence. I hadn't noticed.
I wrote down just the whole monologue.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Also, when he's talking to fake Rachel, and he's like, I need to go find my friend. And she goes, Marshall, you have no friends.
And that's so good.
It's so good.
So good. Okay, and then this one is the one I think we left the hardest at, which was just the you'll never get to her. I don't doubt that, considering she's not real. Like the delivery of the line too. That was the funniest shit. Oh my god.
I also have, before that, I have It's One Fucking Ugly Tie. When he lights the car on fire.
I was also hurt because I had written down earlier that I liked his tie. I was like, damn, bro, that tie hits.
And then when he's having the flashback to his wife killing the kids, she says, they'll be our living dolls. And then he says, Dolores, if you ever loved me, please stop talking.
That was that I have that as my final one. I think that's my favorite, honestly, personally. Yeah. I feel like, because that's another one that retroactive, because it's really fucking funny in the moment because she's fucking great. She's like, oh, we're gonna turn them into living dolls and we'll dress them up, and it's like, please just stop talking. But also, if you think about it, across the entire movie, she clearly did not love him because that was what he said in real life in the flashback, and then we see through this whole movie she never stopped talking. She's literally, from that point on, he goes, please stop talking. She's the thing that flashbacks. She specifically, the thing that haunted him, her talking to him. So she won. I mean, does that mean she never loved him? I don't know. But I thought that was like it was a really good like double up. But I think that one or the other one, the We Belong Here, those are both like really good.
I don't know. So I think they're both really good.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite between them.
Can we have two quote of the movies? I mean, we make the rules. We literally can.
Well, today's crazy enough.
Today's crazy. Let's have two quote of the movies.
Let's do it. You know what? Fuck it, guys. I apologize for chaos.
I don't know what this episode is. Yeah. It started with us not being able to watch The Wonder. Yeah. And it ended with me having a mental breakdown about how I'm going to get canceled. So, like, you know what? Fuck it. We have two fucking quote of the movies. You know what? Every quote we have down is
No, that's too much. I refuse.
Okay, so the two quote of the movies.
Read the one that was on yours first. I don't have it on mine. So
it's the just keep walking, we belong here.
Quote of the movie. Number 1.
Just keep going. We belong here.
That was number 1. And now for number 2 on quote of the movie 2, Electric Boogaloo. We have, if you ever loved me, Dolores, please stop talking. Roll it.
If you ever loved me, Dolores, please stop talking.
And now it's been rolled. So those are the so final score.
Jesus Christ.
I actually have to think about this.
I have a score.
I didn't. You know what's really funny? Because I remember the first 40 minutes of the movie, I was like, bro, I'm about to be upset.
It's gonna be a 2.
No, well, I wasn't gonna go that low. I was gonna be like, I was about to upset every film bro. Give this like a 5 or a 6. But now I think I would maybe an 8.
That's what I was gonna give it.
Just an 8?
Just a solid 8.
Make it easy on ourselves.
Yep.
Final score is an 8 then for Cynical Cinephiles. Shutter Island. That was
I fucking hate
a little
you.
gaffe. My bad, guys. I was slipping the tongue.
You're not slick.
Yeah.
Caleb, what are we watching next week?
Well, as you know, recently the Weird Al biopic came out.
Are we watching it?
No. We're actually going to be watching Weird Al's first movie from the 80s, UHF.
I'm sorry, what was that?
UHF. UHF is the movie we're watching. Weird Al's other movie.
What does that stand for?
Ultra high frequency. It's
Oh.
basically like just a type of like signal, like TV channel. Basically, UHF is, stars Weird Al, is like his little baby pet project. It's absurdist comedy, and he basically is like some dude who's down on his luck, and then he inherits a TV station, and he just makes the weirdest shit.
I'm like less excited now because I thought we were gonna watch the Weird Al biopic.
It's great. I just watched it. I wanted to do the kind of throw you off, This movie's great though.
Okay.
That's a little sad. It's a good one.
Okay. I'm sure you're right.
It's like, the thing is, I loved the biopic though. I mean, that was one of the funniest things I've seen in years, but I honestly rank them about equally in different ways. I think UHF though has like it's got a charm to it that I've not seen.
The energy of this podcast just plummets.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of pain. She's just so sad now. I feel awkward. I think it was still worth it for the fake out. I was preparing all day for that.
So
I literally,
funny.
yeah.
I would. So I don't want to give like too many behind the scenes, but also this is the first time we haven't talked about what the next movie is going to be beforehand. Because normally we're
No,
like,
I was literally, if you were going to ask me what it was going to be, I was literally not going to tell you.
really?
Yeah, I was planning on doing it live on here just to it's like fucking get you with the thinking it was the biopic. Because she fucking replied to me on Twitter being like, is that the next pick? And I was like, maybe. But I was like, oh, you know what would be funnier is if we did UHF.
Because normally we're like, what's the next pick?
Yeah.
Caleb. And then
Yeah.
you tell me, and I'm like, what is that?
She's just staging it.
As if
She's
we've
lying.
never talked about it before.
I've never lied. I've never pretended to be surprised.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm just saying, I'm honest. Well, no, I'm not. I literally lie. I've lied so many times, but
but that was good.
yeah,
Okay, I guess
yeah. UHF is actually like phenomenal. Like
Okay. I believe you. Are we gonna watch it together again?
Why not?
I've been liking this setup. We
Honestly?
just watch it together and
Yeah.
then do it.
All right. So yeah, UHF.
Should
is
we
what we're
end
gonna
this
do.
podcast?
Probably.
I need to go to Target.
I need to kill.
I need cat litter. Hashtag pretty litter, sponsor us. And also, I need to go look at Christmas decorations to make myself feel better about myself.
Fair enough. I just need to go to sleep.
Bed.
Yeah, that's all I need. All right. This is the ending, guys, where we end things.
End this podcast. Fuck you guys. Fuck everything.
Like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, then rate us 5 stars. Speaking of audio listeners, if you are watching this visually and you'd rather not because you fucking hate looking at us,
I
then
do too.
relatable, true. Then yeah, listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. I think we're on others as well, like a bunch, like pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, Pandora, whatever the fuck, we're there. At this point, we might have already ended. I don't know. If we haven't, then I'll say this is an ending. Fuck you, and I'm gonna go.